Hello everyone, welcome back to How to Spec Guide. I'm Max and you joined me today up in the mountains of northern Colorado, well really just a little bit west of Boulder with my Polestar 2. And this is a 6-month ownership update and review. So if you've seen this channel before, you've seen me do all kinds of content in the Polestar 2, whether it's about it or tangentially related. I drive this, I take it on road trips all the time. It is my daily driver. This video though is for everyone. If you came to this video and you're curious about Polestar 2 specifically, maybe getting a good deal on a used one like I did, well, this video is my experience. So I bought this Polestar 2, which is originally a 2021 model that was fully loaded, had the Napa leather seats, the Pilot Plus and Performance packs, and I got it as a certified pre-owned vehicle from Polestar. I went to their Portland, Oregon showroom and drove it back all the way back to Boulder, Colorado, where I live. I've been living with it for 6 months, and in those 6 months, I've done a lot of adventures with it. My girlfriend and I drove to the California side of Lake Tahoe from where we live and back with it, and so I've gotten to know, of course, public charging infrastructure for road trips, this vehicle specifically, its quirks, its characteristics. I also had the opportunity several weeks ago to test the refreshed, revised 2024 Polestar 2, which made some updates to this platform. So I'm going to talk in this video both about my personal experience, but also where I think the Polestar 2 as a vehicle stands as Polestar as a brand matures, how you might compare it to the new one, and the value proposition considering, hey, do I get one of the used ones, one of the new ones with those special offers, or do I look at a used Polestar 2 and do what I did? What's a better value choice? Where does it make sense? What kind of improvements are there? So I'm gonna just, walk you through my Polestar 2 and then I'll drive it a little bit, and this won't be that long of a video, but if you have comments, leave them in the, if you have questions, leave them in the comments. And yeah, let's just talk about my Polestar 2. Okay, so let's walk through my specific Polestar 2. Like I shared with you, this is a 2021 model, so it was the launch model year. And I got this certified pre-owned from Polestar Portland, but their pre-owned program on their website, you can just choose any of their locations. I just shopped for the cheapest one in the country at the time that had all the packages I wanted, which was this. So I paid at the time $46,000, which seemed like a great deal because this was originally like a $72,000 car, not even 3 years old, like 2 years old basically. So that's some pretty good depreciation. Now, a big reason for that was even though this car only had 7,500 miles when I bought it, it was a rental car. And if you know anything about used cars, well, rental cars do get treated kind of kind of harshly, and lots of things can go wrong with them. So that's always a concern. I had some peace of mind because it was a CPO and Polestar looks through them more carefully. But of course, when I picked it up, I wasn't an expert buyer. There were some things I probably should have looked at more carefully. Like for instance, on mine, you can clearly tell that the performance wheels have been repainted and not particularly well. So they've been curbed. This is very common on rental cars. But basically, there's a lot of these now in inventory, even cheaper than when I bought them. You can get, I just checked today as of me filming this, a model similar to mine with maybe a little more mileage for like 40 grand, even just slightly underused now with all of these packs, the leather seating, the Pilot Plus and Performance. That is bonkers. So a little bit sad for me because what I thought was a good deal has turned out to depreciate even more, but hey, that's car buying, especially EVs in 2023. But yeah, I've been really happy with it. What have I done with it in the time that I've owned it? Well, aside from picking it up and, being happy that it's the fully loaded Polestar, it has performance, meaning it has these Brembo brakes, it has Öhlins suspension, which I found to be a very comfortable, worthwhile upgrade. I've driven models without that suspension, and I don't like them. And it has these cool wheels, and it also has a performance upgrade. So one big distinction here that was really interesting is in 2022, right, its second year of being in production, Polestar let you well, what they did is they came out with the performance that actually had more horsepower, because originally the performance pack added no power. It didn't really make the 0 to 60 any quicker. But that changed in 2022. The cool thing was, though, because the motor hardware wasn't different, it was a matter of tuning, Polestar released a software update allowing owners of previous, dual motor Polestar 2s, like the one that this was, to get the upgrade. So you might have noticed that I have, if you're a Polestar eagle-eyed watcher, I have this Polestar engineered sticker, and I have this updated power rating of 350 kilowatts. This vehicle only came with 300 kilowatts out of the factory. I applied that power upgrade. It was a $1,200 upgrade I paid for on Polestar's website, and then within a few days they basically sent an over-the-air update to my vehicle, and I got a horsepower boost of like something like I believe whatever the, the difference is between 300 and 350 kilowatts. I think that translates to like 80 horsepower. 0 to 60 was a little bit quicker. It went from 4.5 to 4.3 seconds. But to be honest, this is not a 0 to 60 car. If you want numbers, if you want that kind of those bragging rights, the Tesla Model 3 Performance is, I think, still the better direction to go. Why did I buy this though instead of a Tesla? Because at the time, right, Teslas weren't quite as cheap as they were now, but there were great deals on them. And for the price, right, $46,000 that I bought this for, I could have stretched a little bit more and really bought a new, for 50 grand at the time, a new long-range Model 3 all-wheel drive. So that would have been, okay, a little bit less sporty than the Polestar. It wouldn't have had Brembo brakes, but it would have had comparable 0 to 60 time. It would have had the Tesla supercharging network and all of those benefits. So why did I decide not to do that? Well, let me walk you through that. Especially in the Front Range of Colorado, but really everywhere in the US now, you see Teslas everywhere. And to be honest, nothing about the design of the Tesla Model 3 has ever really appealed to me particularly. And there's not that many other EV sedan options on the market. The only thing that comes to mind is the Hyundai Ioniq 6, which wasn't for sale when I was in the market. And again, I wasn't really gonna buy a new car unless it was eligible for the tax credit and had all the crazy incentives like Tesla's did. And the Ioniq 6 doesn't have the tax credit if you buy it. So I wasn't considering Ioniq 6 at the time. I wanted a sedan. I don't want to drive a crossover or an SUV. I have no need at this point in my life for that because, look, I'm perfectly happy driving something lower to the ground with better handling. That's just the kind of person I am. I don't have a family. I don't have pets. I don't have kids. Of course, everyone's situation is different. So maybe I'm just the weirdo buyer in the US, but I wanted a sedan and I didn't really want a Tesla. And, there's several other things about Teslas that don't appeal to me. But like I said, they have the best charging network, that's unconceded, but it's opening up. Polestar was one of the brands to announce a partnership with Tesla, so next year I'll be able to buy an adapter and use it at many Tesla superchargers to charge my Polestar 2. So that's pretty sweet. I didn't even know that when I bought the Polestar, but I figured, hey, most of the time, a lot of the driving I do is around Boulder. I don't actually need DC fast charging. I got a home level 2 charger installed in my house that I've been pretty happy with, and I can just charge it at home whenever I need to. And at that point, it really equalizes the cars. The Polestar and the Tesla are experientially not that different. So Tesla is basically, right, their aesthetics, the design, none of that stuff appealed to me. I just love the way the Polestar looks, even in this brown color I got. I know brown may not be everyone's cup of tea. This is technically called Moon. It's one of the launch model year colors. I kind of like it. It's stealthy. It's a little bit of a like old man sleeper spec. No one really knows that I'm carrying almost 500 horsepower in this thing, which I really like a lot. But anyhow, let me flip the camera back around and show you more of the Polestar 2. Okay, so more on the specific ownership of my experience with this Polestar 2. So the biggest downside of this vehicle, in my opinion, is the range and the efficiency. It is not necessarily as bad as some vehicles like the original Audi e-tron, but it's not great. In terms of efficiency, what that means is basically the driving range of this car, especially with a 20-inch performance wheels I got, it's not great. They claim 230 miles in the EPA. In the real world, you'll probably get 200 to 210 miles with highway speeds driving this thing. Of course, that would be from 100% state of charge. And with most electric cars, you usually only want to charge them up to 80% on a day-to-day basis to optimize battery health. So for road trips, I would start out with 100% if I had the option, but I don't need to do that every day. Is that a concern? For me, honestly, no. I mean, where I live in Colorado on the Front Range, I can get to ski mountains. I can get to places where I need to be within a charge, and then I can stop somewhere like Silverthorne or wherever else it may be, an Electrify America or a ChargePoint Express unit on the way back and be fine. And I know a lot of people have been unhappy with the state of charging networks, particularly non-Tesla ones, right? The public DC fast charging in the US hasn't really been an issue for me. Like maybe I'm a unicorn, I don't know. Like yes, the apps are clunky. I've had stalls that are weird and like slow and don't work sometimes, but it's not been that common. Most of the time things have been okay. I've never been left stranded with this car. So the range charging, those EV bits of it not being great, I haven't minded too much. And like I was saying earlier, the design of this overall, I'm just such a big fan of. The Thor's hammer headlights, of course, inspired by Polestar's sister brand Volvo, who they are co-owned with under Geely, the Chinese group that owns them. All that stuff is really cool. And in terms of me getting the Mac Daddy one that's spec'd out, I've enjoyed that a lot. Apologies, I opened that door a little bit too strongly. You can see this interior, I'm a fan. Apologies for the glare in the light here, but you can see, right, panoramic all glass roof. That comes with all Polestar 2s that have the Plus pack. Highly recommend it because it makes the vehicle feel a lot more open. Without it, I feel it could be claustrophobic. It's infrared tinted, by the way, so if you live in a sunny state like I do in Colorado, I've had no issue. I haven't felt the need to tint it or put a sunshade on it. It doesn't get too hot. That's particularly helped by the fact that the ones with Napa leather have ventilated seats that I've enjoyed very much. One unfortunate thing is these are leather seats, and leather seats, despite being luxurious, do tend to have wear patterns. You can see I have used mine, and there are ways you can upkeep leather seats and be better about them. You can watch out of spec detailing, where Colton does that on his vehicles and his clients' cars. Look, this is my daily driver. I don't have time to obsess over my car or the money to pay Colton to fix it all the time. So this is how it is. I think this is how it is for most people, and it's something you should know. The cloth material this car comes with, they call it Weave Tech, if you don't get leather, is not something I'm a fan of. I've heard multiple complaints from other people too about how it's not breathable, especially in hot climates, if you get the dark colors. I just don't like the seat material. So leather for me was really important, even though it doesn't look great, it doesn't age amazingly, it's comfortable, and the ventilated function's really nice, a big distinguishing factor from the existing Model 3 in the US. Of course, the updated Tesla Model 3 will have ventilated seats and some other nice details, but overall, yeah, I like this interior. Harman Kardon sound system, 600 watts. It's decent. It's not the best sound system I've ever heard in a vehicle. It'd be really nice if this had the Bowers and Wilkins system that the nice Volvos had, but alas, it does not. Technology in this car, though, and like the interior experience is actually pretty good. Again, this is my personal vehicle. You can see all kinds of stains and stuff. I probably should get this detailed and cleaned at some point, but hey, I've owned it for 6 months. This is what a real vehicle looks like. But yeah, let me talk a little bit more about the technology experience. One of my favorite things about the Polestar 2 is its just interior technology experience. You have a driver display here, and my favorite thing is just like a Tesla, you get in, you put the car in drive, and it's ready to go. All of a sudden, this driver display comes to life. I didn't have to start the car. Just by the weight sensor of me sitting in the seat, it recognized, okay, you're ready to go. Apologies for that noise. Makes stinging noises. It's a Volvo. It's all about safety. It wants me to put my seatbelt on. But it's really cool. You also get maps in the driver display that for some reason are having trouble showing right now. I think it might be, oh, there we go. So you have Google Maps built in. And this has been my favorite thing about this vehicle, or one of my favorite things, is the technology. It's not perfect. However, this system, this tablet in the car that runs an Android automotive operating system, has Google Maps built in. It is really good. It's the same Google Maps you know and love on your phone and everything, but it has EV route planning built in for the Polestar 2. It knows the car's current battery. It's telling me, like when I get to Ward, which is the town I'm going to today, the battery that I'll be at when I stop there, which gives me big peace of mind. If I navigate to a charger and it's wintertime and it's cold, it'll warm up the car's battery and precondition it so that I get the best charging speed and I don't have to spend a long time at a charger with a dead cold battery. That's a common issue with EVs. It's a really smart system. If I were to go somewhere far away, like let's say I wanted to go to Glenwood Springs, Colorado, the car would automatically add stops and charging on the way and just do the route planning for me. And of course, I can manipulate the stops and do all of those controls through Google Maps. Responsiveness is decent. It's not Tesla. The latest Teslas I find are more responsive, a little bit less buggy. This system I found occasionally will just have issues where like every now and then it said like failure to find GPS and things like that. And I have to reboot it by like holding this home button here. And then sometimes the built-in Spotify app will be a little finicky. But overall, head and shoulders above so many other EV systems that I've been in. And I really like generally just, again, starting the car, going and drive, and I'm ready to go. Like, that's so cool. There's no need to mess with start and stop buttons. And right now you can see the car's in drive. It's being held because it's in a one pedal mode, meaning that like when I don't press the accelerator, I'm just stopped and even held on a hill. And even though I'm in drive, I'm not recommending you should do this, but you can in the Polestar, just open the door, automatically puts the car in park, and then I can just step out and I'm good to go. And assuming I have the keys with me, I can just close the door, lock the car with these keyless proximity sensors on all four doors. You can see the mirrors fold in, and I am good to go. It's very seamless. It's honestly very nice. It is just a fact of life for modern EVs, I feel like. Every time I get in a modern EV that doesn't have this kind of seamlessness that requires, you to press the start button and stop button, it just feels antiquated. I know, maybe I sound like I'm on a first world soapbox here, but trust me, when you live with it, you get used to it. Also, I'm filming on my phone right now, so I can't show you, but it has phone as key functionality. It's not quite as reliable as Tesla, but it does work, and I have, it saved me on occasions where I forgot my keys, but because I have my phone with me, I've been able to lock the car, drive it, all of that. There is a Polestar app, of course, that works through. I found it's decent. The phone as key is actually pretty reliable, but the rest of the remote software features sometimes take a bit of time to connect, and it's not quite as reliable as Tesla's app. It's still better than a lot of other apps like Hyundai Blue Link, or I believe it's Chevy OnStar, where you have to pay a subscription for, and their crappy experiences. I'd rather have the Polestar be free and okay, it's not the best experience, but their app is simple enough, and when it works, it is great. I can precondition the car climate-wise, so I can, set the climate to go for 30 minutes before I get in the car, cool it or warm it up, on a colder, hot day before I get in, precondition it to my liking. Unfortunately, you can't use a pet mode like you can in Teslas and Rivians, where if you had dogs, you could have the car maintain its climate for more than 30 minutes. There's no such feature like that on this, which is disappointing. Maybe they could add it in over-the-air software upgrade, because they can do over-the-air software on this car, and every now and then there are some cool new features. This is the key, by the way. I'm not a particularly big fan of the key fob. It's kind of cheap. It's just, if my camera will focus on it, I don't think it will, but it's this pretty just unassuming black box. It's fine. With a Tesla, you just get a credit card instead of a key. It's nice that you get a key fob, and you should get 2 of these if you get a new or certified Polestar 2. Anyhow, other ownership experience things, I think that's a good overall view of the car. Other things I've noticed, I mentioned over-the-air updates. So one quality of life thing that was big for me versus Tesla was this has Apple CarPlay. And it got an update recently where by plugging in my phone with Apple CarPlay, I can have Apple Maps on the driver display I showed you earlier, and then the rest of CarPlay in the main display. So that's really cool. It's like dual screen CarPlay. It's one of the few vehicles that supports that, and it's just nice. And there's been other quality of life things. They've ironed out bugs. They've added new features. There's a YouTube app that's built in, so you can watch YouTube videos while you're charging or whenever. I can't say I honestly use that all the time, especially this being a portrait screen in the car. It's not landscape, but that's there. Big things though in terms of ownership. Tires. I've got to say, for any EV, you have to consider tires, especially if you get a performance variant. This vehicle came stock with Continental Sport Contact 6, the OEM tires for this car. Great summer performance tires. However, in my time with this car, I've driven it for I got it at 7,500 miles. It's at 21,000 miles. So I have driven it in 6 months, by my math, right? 14,000 miles. Gosh, that's a lot. But in my time driving it that much, I have noticed that, I noticed that the tires went bald. The summer tires very quickly were worn. Of course, I bought it used. So in those 7,000 miles and then the 12,000 miles I added on, those tires got completely worn. So I had to get new ones. So what I did is, pardon me, there's cars coming here, so I'll move. What I did, that was loud, jeez. 4Runners, man. I got these all-weather Pirelli tires, and I know some of you will, be dismissive about all-weather tires. I get it. If I had all the money in the world and space that I wanted in my house, I would get dedicated winter tires and go back to dedicated summer performance. The reality is, when I saw the bill for tires with this car, I decided, you know what, I'm going to get Snow Peak Mountain rated all-weather tires. If you've heard of the Michelin Cross Climate 2s, these Pirellis are comparable to that, because I just needed tires that I could run year round for convenience and for cost. I wasn't able to fork over for 2 sets of tires at once, and when I needed to change them, it still wasn't quite cold enough to be winter. So I basically got all-weather tires, and they've handled fine on this vehicle, but a full set of these was $1,400 with fees, installation and all that, and that's very normal for EVs with 20-inch wheels. That's something to keep in mind. You'll wear through tires quicker typically because it's a heavy vehicle with high torque, and when you need to replace them, because they're all these benchmarks of performance, they're large rim sizes, especially if you get a performance variant, you may have to fork over $1,400 to $2,000 for a set of new tires. Tires for EVs are expensive. I wish I'd known that a little bit more going in. So that's my big ownership maintenance note. Other than that, because it's certified pre-owned, I've been on a factory maintenance schedule. I've only had to go in once for my 20,000 mile service pretty recently. That was very easy. They honestly just I think they topped up my washer fluid. They gave me new wipers, which was nice because, you know, wipers tend to wear after that much time. What else did they do? They changed the cabin air filter. That's about it. There's not that much kind of mechanical maintenance going on in EVs because you have features like regenerative braking and you're not using your pads as much. You can see that the Brembos I have here are still fine. The rotors are pretty clean, and that's nice because these being fancy brakes, man, when I do have to replace them, that's going to be scary. Luckily, I don't have to do it for a while because I hardly ever touch these brakes. It's very confidence inspiring knowing though, because of the performance pack, that if I need these brakes, I got them. So anyhow, that's just, yeah, my kind of walk around to the Polestar 2. One more thing before I drive it and show you what that experience is like. Let me open the trunk. This is a big reason why I got this also over at Tesla. Tesla Model 3 is a sedan. This is a liftback. So you can see it has this shared space, cargo cover sort of obscuring it. But basically, if I fold these seats down, I can get into the cabin. It also has a ski pass through because Polestar, right, Volvo, Scandinavian roots, all that. That's really nice. So it's got all that going for it. And then you've got some under-car space. It came with a built-in EVSC, which is technically not a charger, but basically, if you're curious what EVSE means, it is a charger. It's what you plug into the wall to charge this car. I got my own permanent one installed at home, but it came with a mobile one. All Polestar 2s, I believe, come with a mobile one, and it's usually stored under here. There is a front trunk, by the way, which I guess I can show you. It's not honestly that impressive. It's really just not big on space compared to anything like a Tesla, let alone a Lucid or a Rivian or F-150 Lightning, but it does exist. You have to pop open the hood, and then I believe, if I can find the latch, you open it up, and yeah, this is your front trunk. It is rather small. I get a jack and some emergency tire repair stuff. That's about it. No spare tire. That's unfortunately very common in EVs. But yeah, that's the Polestar 2. So I'm gonna close the hood so people driving by don't think I'm in trouble and try to help me. And I'm gonna start driving this car, tell you more of my impressions, how it's been owning it, and wrap this video up. So yeah, let me get in it and let's drive. Okay, now I'm driving the Polestar 2. I'm going up Left-Hand Canyon Drive, a great road, a little bit northwest of Boulder, going onto 72 Peak to Peak Highway, which, by the way, is where Polestar, conveniently enough, did the drive event for the new one that I drove. So let's talk about my impressions of what this car is like to drive with, and then introduce, right, the topic of that new one. I did a full video review of what I think of the new Polestar 2 on a Spec review, so you can watch that if you really want to know about the new one. But the long and short of it is, right, $46,000 that I paid used for this guy. A new one, equivalently loaded up, would be 70 grand, a little bit more, like 73 grand. No tax credit eligibility. If you lease it, Polestar does offer you a clean vehicle credit. I think they offer it if you buy it right now too. It's not official. They can remove it at any time. But at the moment, they're giving you an $8,500 discount, which is great because otherwise this car is a tough value proposition against its competition, that being mainly the Model 3 Performance, which at this point you can get for 52 grand, I believe. Really cheap, right? That undercuts the Polestar even with the discount by 10 grand. However, the Polestar is more car. So the new one is, and so is this old one still. They really haven't changed much. The new one has more of a rear-wheel drive bias in its handling dynamics. And if you get the single motor version, it's just rear wheel drive as opposed to it previously being front wheel drive and kind of slow. So for those of you who are performance fans, that's a really big ace in its sleeve. Also, that new rear wheel drive version is the most efficient version of the Polestar 2 that's ever been out. It has a range EPA rated of up to 320 miles, which is pretty sweet. So if you care about range, that's the one. It also has the best charging performance. It charges a bit quicker than this vehicle, 205 kilowatts versus 150 kilowatts on all older Polestar 2s, including mine, and weirdly enough, the newer dual motor one. So that single motor one is more expensive than I think it should be, but the fact that it's rear wheel drive based, it still handles pretty well. It's sweet, but it doesn't have the performance pack. It doesn't have the Öhlins, it doesn't have the Brembo brakes. So it's in a weird middle spot. When you're paying $50,000 for a well-optioned version of one of those, it's like, I don't know. the one I'm in, I really enjoy. Even though it's older, okay, it's not rear-wheel drive bias. It actually has symmetrical power, this dual motor version on the front and the rear motors. It's fine for me. I'm not sending it on a track. Those handling dynamics work for me. I'm not experiencing understeer because I'm not limit driving it. Driving it through a canyon road like I am today in the rain, I have plenty of confidence. The vehicle is just, a sedan. It's an EV, low center of gravity. It's very heavy, has a lot of power in its motor. So overall, it's very stable. The thing I really like about Polestar 2, this applies to all Polestar 2s, old and new, is that one pedal feel. One pedal is a feature you can turn off. You can set it to low or off. I leave it on all the time. It's effectively right where you either accelerate or you lift off the accelerator and the vehicle automatically comes to a stop and then eventually holds itself. It is a really fun way to drive, and I enjoy it, and I think Polestar's tuning of it is like the best in the auto industry. Tesla has a really good one pedal mode because they've also done one pedal in their vehicles since they've been doing EVs. But Polestar, I think, kind of took a lot of Tesla's homework by adopting a default one pedal mode. And with the performance upgrade in particular, I've noticed the way the pedal is tuned, the accelerator and the way you lift off of it, it is so smooth. It's so reliable and so consistent for me to be able to come to a stop. There's no one behind me, so I guess I can do that right now for you. But I just lift my foot off the accelerator and I smoothly come to a stop. And I'll just start accelerating again so no one rear ends me. But yeah, it's just really smooth. It's a nice one pedal experience that this car offers. And it's one of my favorite things about it. I've been in so many vehicles like the Ford Mustang Mach-E where I'm not a fan of their pedal tuning. Similar story for the Hyundai vehicles like the Ioniq 5 and the Ioniq 6, or similarly the Kia EV6. Those vehicles are great and they let you configure different modes. Like you can have level 1, level 2 regen, or the I-pedal, which is like one pedal, but you have to go to the I-pedal every time you turn the vehicle on. With the Polestar, it's just like a Tesla, it's really simple, right? You get in the car, no start button, none of these paddle shifters or anything to simulate gears. You just use it, and the default mode is great. And I think that's how EVs should be. It's a philosophy I like a lot. Now, I mentioned earlier in this video, right, the software, the responsiveness, the polish, Tesla still, their advantage in this area shows in their maturity because they're such a good technology and software company. Polestar, I think, still struggles with that a little bit. I'll give an example of that. It's not just the infotainment. This vehicle has Pilot, right? I mentioned Plus Pack being the one with the nice speakers and the glass roof, and Performance being the Brembo brakes and Öhlins suspension. Well, Pilot is that other package you can option in Polestar 2, and I think it's a must-have. I honestly don't know why it's not standard, but basically it's their branding for their adaptive cruise control and lane centering system. It's good. It's not bad. But in terms of its performance at lane centering, it's not as good as Tesla's autopilot. It's not as good as Hyundai's highway driving assist. It just, will give up sometimes if the curves of the road are too high. So just two downsides there in its column, right? One, you get an option in the first place. You could buy an expensive, nice Polestar 2, but because it doesn't have the Pilot Pack, you get no adaptive cruise control on a vehicle whose price could easily be in the neighborhood of $60,000. I just think that's criminal. So that's disappointing, and the fact that even when you get it, I don't think it's a particularly amazing system. It does the job, it's fine, don't get me wrong, it follows the cars in front of you well, it centers in its lane, but that's table stakes at this point in not just EV world, but car world in general, when you're paying that much money for a new modern car, especially coming from a brand like Volvo, or being associated with Volvo. I'd expect better, and there is going to be better. The Polestar 3 that just launched and its sister car, the Volvo EX90, have LiDAR and driver monitoring systems, meaning they can do hands-free driving assist, and I really would like to check that out. It's also powered by NVIDIA graphics cards and all kinds of fancy technology going on, so I'm sure that's going to be much more comparable to the state-of-the-art in the industry. That's one of those areas where the age of this car shows. It's an okay driving assist stack, but it's by no means level 3 self-driving or anything. Not that any car is self-driving, but you know what I mean. Some cars are really able to take a lot of the work off highway driving for you. This isn't one of them. Pilot is nice, but it's just not the most sophisticated system. It won't do things like slowing down for curves or moving you in your lane if there's obstructions detected, the way that Hyundai's highway driving assist does, or the Tesla's autopilot does really well. So that just a kind of knock there. That's a lot on driver assistance, but just generally, like I said, when I drive this car, the throttle mapping, or the accelerator mapping, right? It's an EV, it's not a throttle, but the just mapping of that, the overall tuning and everything, the suspension, especially with the Öhlins, is really great. Öhlins is the Swedish company that's well known for their dampers, and I have mine tuned, if you're curious and you're a Polestar nerd, on the 14-15 setting, which is sort of towards comfort. One of the ridiculous things about these dampers is you have to tune them manually. Like, you can't do it electronically with a button in the car. You actually have to get out, get this car in a jack stand, and like get under there and start turning the knobs yourself. It's a little bit ridiculous, but I basically, since I've taken delivery of the vehicle, had it set to that comfort setting, and it's been really nice. You could set it to a stiffer setting if you were to take this car to the track, or if you live in an area with really smooth, nice roads. I don't. It's Colorado. We get weather. Roads are bumpy, and I want a car that's comfortable. And this car is plenty comfortable, still has lots of body control. It just handles and behaves really well, really predictably. It's not quite as sporty as a Model 3. And a Model 3 Performance, where you have track mode, where you can dial in the handling balance and all that, Polestar gives in none of that. It's really for simplicity, but I think it's simplicity that's going to benefit most everyday drivers, and people are just going to enjoy it a lot. So my driving impressions and just impressions of the Polestar 2 is a space to be in on long road trips or commutes or just general day-to-day errands. Is I like this a lot. I do have to say, though, one thing I don't like about this interior is a glaring issue, both on this old one and the new one. So I'm going to bring up that big issue in the close of this video, and then just close this video out, give my final opinions and summaries. But yeah, let's get into that in the next clip. Okay, ready to talk compromises? I am. As much as I like the interior of this car, what is this? This is the biggest complaint. I'm not alone in having this as a Polestar owner. Because this vehicle is derived from a gas platform, the Volvo XC40 and XC40 Recharge, right? That's a platform Volvo made for both EVs and gas vehicles. This is normally a drivetrain on the all-wheel drive version of those. They don't waste the space. They actually put batteries in here, but because they have this architecture, they have to have it, meaning that unlike a Model 3, unlike an Ioniq 6 or 5, you have very limited space here. You've got this, you can see, like sunglasses and chapstick pocket, but otherwise it's taken up by this. And then even worse than the XC40, they have this really weird decision for cup holders. Pardon my disgusting drunken coffee here. But like you can see, you got one cup holder there. However, if I wanted to have my arm in a comfortable position, for me, I'd want to cover the cup holder to be able to rest my arm there. So now I've got no cup holders. And there are two cup holders, but to use both of them, you've got to have no armrest at all. So it's a really weird layout, and they've just chosen to give all of this space to this piano black surface that you can see is already getting to be quite disgusting. And so really, I know a lot of owners will wrap this in vinyl. I haven't cared enough to do that. Again, I'm not fussy with my car, if you couldn't tell. Like, I just keep it like it is. I should probably get it detailed. But yeah, you can see, like, for a normal person, this just looks disgusting, serves very little purpose. They should have done what they did on the XC40, given this more cup holder space and some, maybe even giving you a trash bin, the way that Volvo does. It's unfortunate that Polestar made this, weird decision to have such a, big cockpit. I'm a skinny driver too, so I don't have an issue here, but I've noticed larger people in this car are just uncomfortable in the front seat because of how much this intrudes into your space. You've got USB-C ports here, which is cool, very future-proof feature, and that you have to use wired Lightning for Apple CarPlay or for Android Auto. You've got to plug in, no wireless. There's a wireless charger here. It works about as well in wireless chargers as wireless chargers do in most cars, which is to say, I would just plug in. I don't want my phone to get hot in there. But yeah, you can see the drive shaft situation, or in Polestar's case, where they put batteries, extends here, compromises somewhat, right, the middle space. If you were to have 5 people in this car, I wouldn't entirely recommend that. Backseat space is actually okay. I think it's better than Model 3. It's more comfortable back there. Model 3 suspension is really unforgiving for backseat passengers, even in the newest one. I know people say it's gotten better. I've ridden in them. They suck. The Polestar 2, I think, is much more comfortable in the back. However, for the middle passengers specifically, they've got this big hump. It's a compromise of this being a shared platform. And that's just a big disappointment. And that's, one of the downsides of Polestar deciding with this vehicle that they were going to use a shared platform. By the way, I'm at 26% battery, so some of you will be watching this freaking out. Like, Max, aren't you up in the mountains? Oh my gosh, you're going to get stranded. I don't care. I am confident I'm going to get home because I've done most of the uphill now. So now I get to go downhill and get some regen. But anyhow, let me flip the camera around and just offer up my final thoughts. Polestar 2, as an owner, I've been very happy with this model that I got fully loaded as a used one. The used value of these is crazy. Yes, a lot of them are rental vehicles, so inspect them carefully, look for the curb rash, it's probably there, make sure there's nothing major with paint and whatnot. I bought certified pre-owned because it had scheduled factory maintenance. They extend the warranty by 2 years. It made sense for me. If you find an amazing deal though, like some people have for like under 30 grand, getting a fully loaded Polestar 2 from a generic, used car lot, then maybe you can look into that too. I felt a little bit safer going with Polestar CPO program, and that's just what I did. And I also am financing it through their financing thing, which is the same as Volvo Finance. And in candidness, I get a 6.5% interest rate, which sounds horrifying, or would have sounded horrifying a few months ago. Now it sounds quite great. And for that reason, I'm not trading this car anytime soon, because right now the best interest rates you can get on a lot of car loans are like 7 to 8%. So I understand it's a difficult market, or it's a confusing market, right? You have Model 3 and these used Polestar 2s are such appealing prices, but you gotta watch out because interest rates, it's crazy. I don't want to go on a rant too much about that, but yeah, it's a interesting space to be in the EV market. I'm so glad these vehicles are good and affordable. I'm kind of kicking myself for not waiting a few months later and picking this car up, but honestly, in the time I've had this car, the opportunities that I've had, my girlfriend and I have had, taking road trips and adventures in this, I've enjoyed it so much. It's been really mostly positives. Again, like things like the center console are bad, the range, charging efficiency could all be better, but they're not the most important things to me. I care about how the car looks, as superficial as that sounds, its design, its technology, the interaction with it, just its personality. And the personality of the Polestar 2 is something that appeals to me so much. Also, you get these cool like backlit interior accents, at least if you get the Plus pack with the Napa leather seat. So like, this is by far the nicest car I've ever owned personally, and as a result I've been so happy with it. And I would, if I were buying again in this market, again with what I said about interest rates being where they were and the new prices of Polestar 2 being where they were, like yeah, the new one's nicer, rear wheel drive bias, it's slightly quicker, it has a little bit more standard equipment, and they're offering like an $8,000 discount, it's still not as good of a deal as just picking up a used one of these. And it's not like you buy a new one and you get the tax credit. You don't. So I would just do what I did, buy a used one for 40 grand, fully loaded, or even a little bit cheaper with fewer of the options. I do think though the Polestar 2 benefits a lot from having the leather seats, the glass roof, some of the nicer things, the pilot pack, which really should have been standard. Those things help it a lot. Anyhow, those have been my impressions as a Polestar 2 owner. Hopefully this video hasn't run on too long. Again, I've been Max without a spec guide. Thank you so much for watching. If you've got other Polestar 2 questions or Polestar questions in general, leave them in the comments. I'd love to nerd out about my car, so happy to answer them there. And subscribe to this channel if you want to know all about EV basics, first-time EV ownership, all of those things. Thanks for watching. I'm Max, and I'm going to head back downhill to Boulder and gain some charge with some regenerative braking. Well, maybe I'm not going to gain charge, but at least I won't lose much. Anyhow, see you in the next video. Bye.